Hi, everybody.
Hey!
Hello.
Welcome to Books and Bindings. Welcome. Happy March. We are so excited today to have a wonderful indie author, Erica Dansereau, author of Come Forth as Gold. Alyssa and I have both read this book and are just absolutely in love with it. So, Erica, it is an absolute pleasure to have you with us today.
Thank you. I'm so honored to be here.
Erica, before we jump in, there are a few fun facts that I want our viewers to know about you. And so I'm just going to dive right in. So, for those of you who don't know Erica, she has a wonderful Instagram account and she makes some of the most relatable reels that I've ever seen in regards to bookish content, writing content. Definitely give her a follow because they're just so good. Another thing that we're going to touch upon a little later in the interview, but she won a BIBA. And if you don't know what a BIBA is the Best Indie Book Award. And it's so well deserved. I am at a loss for words. So we're so proud of you for that.
Thank you.
Welcome. And you also run an editing and publishing service with your friend Britt Howard. And it's called Pro Book Edits. Is that correct?
Yes.
Awesome. Which is so cool and exciting. So guys, also follow that account too, because I believe it's a separate account.
Yes.
Which is so we'll have all of our Instagram handles linked down below so you can follow them. And then on top of all of those things, Erica is also a wife, a mom, a friend, and that's also a full-time job. So somehow she manages to balance it all. And if you don't know, she can do this really cool thing with her eyes, like which I am still like amazed at. So if you don't know,
Should I do it?
yeah, sure. You can do go and show everyone.
Okay, here's my debut, guys. Okay.
Oh,
There we go. That's it.
I am very impressed.
Thank you.
that's literally amazing. She does it all, folks. Okay. So with that, we're gonna just jump right into our first question.
Okay.
So also if you see my cat here, he jumped up to say hello.
Hi, Moo.
Your first question, Erica, is what inspired this story, Come Forth as Gold?
So, Come For This Gold, it takes place in Goldfield, Nevada, it was originally a boom town in like central western Nevada. And then it just kind of became this semi-abandoned mining town. And that's actually where my granddad grew up. And so I was always kind of inspired by this place, intrigued by this place. And I kind of knew, even as a little girl, that I wanted to write a story that took place there. And so that's kind of where the seed was sown with setting. But my granddad's family had a really unique upbringing there in Goldfield. And there's a really tragic event that happened in his family that I can't really say what it is because I write a fictionalized version of it in my book that's a major inciting incident. So I don't want to give any spoilers away. But when I was kind of ruminating on this tragedy, the ball kind of started rolling, as I was trying to understand how anyone could come to terms with such an event and navigating through grief and faith and all of these things. And that's kind of where the story was born.
Amazing.
Something I really appreciate about your book is that you don't shy away from sharing what grief really feels like. It's not sugar coated, but you do it in such a way that keeps the story moving and you're not wallowing and staying in that grief. There's forward motion and you see that growth in your characters, which I really appreciate. How did you decide which events to incorporate from your family's history and which ones not to?
Um, Well, as far as like the town and setting goes, I tried to stay as true to history as possible, but there was a lot of things like kind of dead ends, like as I was researching, and obviously like my granddad passed away when I was only 8. And my grandma followed, a few years later. And so they weren't really here to, go to and ask me questions. And so I had to do a lot of research. I actually was able to be in touch with some of my granddad's childhood friends who are still alive and got to like talk with them and hear all these like memories and stuff. And I wanted to incorporate as much as possible just to keep the book as realistic as possible. But there were some dead ends, things that like no one could tell me. And that's where I took a lot of creative liberty and just kind of made stuff up, you know? Um, but like my granddad, I remember hearing stories about him sneaking into the Goldfield Hotel, like as a kid, and like scurrying around in there, lighting a mattress on fire and almost burning the place down, like, you know, getting into a lot of mischief. And I wanted to incorporate as much of, you know, his true childhood as I could into the story. So, yeah.
It's definitely evident for sure. Like it feels very well researched, very authentic, like almost like you've been there, you know, which you have. I mean, I think there was a time where you did an Instagram story of visiting
Mhm.
that place, right? And I think like
Yeah.
which was just so cool. I'm like, I don't know. I as someone who writes fantasy, it's I don't get to visit my worlds like in the flesh. So it's very cool that you can actually like, wow, I went to the location of my story and this is in my story. Like that's so cool.
Yeah, it was an amazing trip to be able to go there and like, you know, find my granddad's childhood home and like all these places and like it was such a blessing.
So cool. So along that same vein, because we were talking about also some characters, I know Jordan mentioned their growth and just you know dealing with grief and so well done. I'm curious about your character names. Like, how did you come up with the names, specifically Claude? Because it feels very old school. I don't hear it very often. So, what brought you to choose Claude and then Kitty?
So Claude was directly inspired by my granddad. So my granddad's name was Clarence Farnsworth. So his initials were CF. And I wanted to kind of do a little nod to my granddad and like, you know, basic character around him. And so that's how Claude Fisher, CF, came around. And then my and then in the story, you know that Claude's nickname is Fly, and that's what most of his friends call him. Well, my granddad growing up, everyone called him Boots to the day, you know, from when he was a little kid to the day he died. That's like what most people knew him as was Boots. And so I wanted the main character to have some sort of a nickname that went with him. And so that's kind of, you know, where I became, you know, came up with that. And then as for Kitty, I just like the name. I just thought it sounded pretty, especially cute, you know, with Claude and Kitty. Like there's not really like anything interesting behind her name, but
No, it's great. They work so well together. So, yeah, that's awesome. So, what was your writing process as to whether it's characters or just you know developing characters or setting or just sitting down and figuring out like do you have to have an aesthetic, a candle burning, like what is it? What does it look like for you?
my writing process is a mess. Like I'm the conductor on the Hot Mess Express. Um, yeah, it's kind of all over the place. I love to sit down with something hot to drink, tea, coffee, maybe have a candle burning, something like that. But as far as like actually coming up with, you know, all the inner workings of a novel, I generally will sit down with like a loose outline, just like a new notebook, kind of outline everything, and then go in and flesh it out. But I'm such a pantser by nature that it all goes out the window and I just make it up as I go along.
You're in good company.
Yes.
It's so funny how everybody's writing styles are so different because the way that your novel so seamlessly comes together and the themes that are woven throughout your novel so well, I never would have guessed that you were a pantser.
Thank you.
Yeah, not that that's a bad thing. Being a pantser isn't a bad thing, but I think it comes across as so heavily planned because it's orchestrated really, really well.
Thank you. I think that like when I try to plot, I overthink and I end up messing everything up. And like it's kind of funny because Come Forth as Gold, the first draft of it looked extremely different. It had like dual points of view, dual timeline. Part of it was set in modern day, told through the eyes of someone else, and it was kind of all over the place. And I had it thought it out, you know, very well, but I couldn't connect with the story. And especially like all like the other point of view that I had in, and I ended up scrapping that and then just going with Claude's story and, you know, having it set in the past and stuff, because it just came so much more natural to me, and so much more natural. Wow, naturally. I can't speak. Anyway, yeah, I think that when I plot, I just overthink and I screw everything up. So it's better for me just to fly by the seat of my pants and hope for the best.
Mm. And on that same line, faith is such a huge ribbon throughout the book too. How did you go about incorporating faith into the book?
I didn't set out to write a faith-based novel. I didn't set out to write a Christian fiction novel. The first draft of, you know, Come Forth as Gold, as I mentioned, looked way different. But I wrote that in 2019. And then I kind of walked away from it, started working on a different project. And when 2020 hit and all the like craziness of the pandemic and everything, when we were in lockdown and like, you know, everyone was just kind of supposed to stay home, my husband and I started doing Bible studies together. And it was kind of the first time I honestly took my faith seriously. And because of that, I realized like, no, I don't want to just tell a story for the sake of telling a story. Like, I want to have something meaningful to say, and what more meaningful than sharing my faith in some way. And so Come Forth as Gold, obviously, it had a lot of those elements already in it, but I scrapped, you know, 40, 50,000 words from it when I deleted the whole other point of view and timeline and stuff. And so I really got to go in and flesh it out with my faith in mind.
So well done. I really appreciated Claude's growth in that. Like you could tell, like, I don't know, as he journeys from a young boy to a man, and his growth in his faith journey it's wholesome, it's relatable, it's authentic, and yeah, it's very, very well done. So
Thank
it
you.
worked well. You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Welcome. How long did it take you to write Come Forth as Gold?
So I finished my first draft quickly in 2019, and then I walked away from it for, you know, a while. And then I revisited it sometime in later 2020, walked away from it, came back to it. So all in all, I think it was like a 3 year, like a 2.5 year process. But I would, you know, walk away from it for 3 or 4 months and not write anything, and then come back. So a
It's great.
while.
Yeah, I mean, it's some of the best novels are written like, I don't know, 10 years. Some are written in like a few months. Like everyone's different. So that's amazing. It's great because you can definitely, you know, see, I'm sure for you, you can see how much it's changed throughout the whole time. So
It's such a fun process.
for sure.
Mhm. Alyssa just touched on the character of Claude, and something that I thought was probably the most powerful part of the book for me was how effortlessly you were able to not only speak in the voice of a male, but a male at different ages throughout his life. What was that like for you? Was that difficult?
It was surprisingly really easy. Like it, like I said before, you know, I had a different point of view added in, and that was a female point of view. And for some reason, it was hard for me to write her. It
Yeah.
wasn't me, it was someone else. But Claude was just so easy for me. And I honestly think that it's because Claude is just this like accumulation of all the best men in my life, because I have a lot of really wonderful people in my life. You know, my granddad, my dad, I have two amazing brothers, of course, my husband. And so he just felt like home to me. And so he was just so easy to write. But then also, aside from just looking at him as a male, like as just, looking at him as just a human being. And, we can all relate to grief. We can all relate to maybe questioning our faith sometime. We can all relate to a lot of the stuff that he went through. So finding that like common thread of humanity was pretty simple.
That's beautiful. It's definitely evident that Claude, his character is so believable. It felt like I could be his friend. I want to be friends with Claude and Kitty. And I love what you said about how he's kind of the culmination of all the great men in your life. And I think something I really appreciated about how Claude was written, without giving too much away, I love that he didn't come across as a savior or have this savior complex. I don't want to elaborate too much because I don't want to give it away to anybody who hasn't read the book, but he was just a very well written character. So great job.
Thank you.
Yeah, Claude has earned a special place in my heart as like one of my favorite male characters ever written. Yeah, he really is a special, and it makes it even more special knowing where you got your inspiration from. So it's very evident and very well done. So.
Thank you. I love Claude.
Is he your favorite character to write?
Yes. Yeah. I just adore him. And, I was kind of, when I was writing it, I was thinking, okay, if say my son reads this one day, like I want him to read about a character that he can aspire to be like. And I would have no problem if my, son ended up like Claude, who is obviously based off of all the wonderful men in my life. So I'm just hoping that, by telling it through the eyes of a young man, that it could maybe inspire other young men to grow up and be great,
That's really sweet.
Emotional.
I'll be crying.
I know, like I need tissues. Oh my gosh, that's great. Okay. Well, speaking of crying, my next question has to do with crying, so it's a really good segue. Did you, as the writer, ever cry while writing this book? Because it is super emotional, and I mean, not like devastatingly, like it's not like, but there are some parts that you're like, wow, I hurt, but also I hurt in a good way. It's like a good hurt, but also like, oh, that's awful, but there's hope. So what was that experience like for you?
Yeah, I definitely shed some tears, mostly towards the end. It's hard because I don't want to give too many spoilers, but like part of the epilogue is based off of my grandparents, especially my grandma. And so that was really emotional for me. And then also about a month before I finished my manuscript completely, my grandma on my mom's side passed away. And it was a really hard, crazy, tragic whirlwind of a time. And she was like my number one cheerleader, my person I'd go to for everything. And I was so looking forward to like sharing this novel with her. She's read everything else I've ever written. And her death just completely shook me. And a month later, after she died, like maybe a month and a half later, I finally sat down and I was like, you know what? I'm going to finish this. Like, I'm just going to do it. And I sat down and I finished my manuscript. And the final words of the last chapter and the final words of the epilogue are exactly the same. There are two words, thank you. And when I finished that last line of the epilogue and I wrote the end, I was just like sobbing and just saying, thank you, thank you, thank you. Like, even though I had just experienced the hardest, month or so of my life, I was still able to finally get to that place of having gratitude and just like thanking God. And I felt like so in tune with my character in that moment. And it was such like a surreal feeling, but that I even want to cry right now, kind of thinking about it. But yeah, and then, when I go back and read certain sections of my book, it kind of like makes me tear up and makes me a little emotional just because I don't know, even though it's fiction and these characters aren't real, like these struggles and the things they go through are real and they're so relatable. And I put so much of like my own heart into the book. And so, yeah.
It's very evident that your heart is on the page, and even hearing you talk about it now, it's very evident that this story is still very, very close to you. So thank you for putting your heart out on the page and just being vulnerable. Writing is a really vulnerable thing.
It is.
So thank you for sharing. Yeah. Yeah. Um, I guess how do you go about how do I word this? Let me just read. Let me just read off my paper because I don't know how to word it on my own. What resources have you used to develop your writing style and your craft, and what writing sources do you use now?
So a couple years ago, I read like a couple of different, like writer help type books that I felt like were super helpful. There was one by Donald J. Maass. I'm not sure how to say his last name. It was called Writing 21st Century Fiction. And that I feel like was super helpful. And then Roy Peter Clark has a few books that have really been helpful to my journey as a writer. But one of the biggest things that I've done is go to writers' conferences, and they have a lot of workshops. I mean, not just conferences, but you can find different writers' workshops and stuff around. But doing the workshops and not being scared to like put myself out there and like volunteer to like, hey, I'll go first, and like read my work, get feedback. Like it's really scary and I don't like doing it, but that's what has helped me grow the most, I think, as a writer are those. And then these days, obviously, reading helps you grow, and reading from a writer's eye. But there's a few podcasts and things that I like to listen to. There's, I'm forgetting her name now. Stephanie Gilbo, something like that. I listen to her podcast on Spotify, and she's super helpful and informative. It's kind of it as that I'm currently like listening to or into.
That's awesome. I haven't heard of any of those books or the podcasts, so
Hey, I'll have to look it up.
yeah, I'm going to add those to my list.
Yeah, I'm always looking for, new ways to grow. And so this is helpful because similar to Jordan, I haven't heard them either. So that's great. Okay, so we've talked a lot about Come Forth as Gold, and I think I already know the answer. Well, I do already know the answer to this question, but not everyone else may know. Will there be a sequel to this book?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Now, as of like March 1st, this month, there will be a sequel.
No way.
Yeah. So I originally, after I published Come Forth as Gold, I thought, okay, I'm just going to write a bunch of historical fiction, but like somehow connect them, maybe some like side characters or this or that. And I wrote, I don't know, like 25,000 words or something into one. And I was like, this isn't working. And I just kind of like scrapped it, put it to the back burner. And I thought, well, maybe I won't actually write a sequel or even just something that's vaguely connected. And a few weeks ago, an idea came to me and I sat down to just start writing it, and it's flowing and I'm so excited for it. I don't really know like if I should like say anything about it. But I'll say that it's from Kitty's perspective. I'll say that. But I'm so excited about it.
You're so excited.
My mind, Alyssa, I can't believe you didn't tell me first.
I thought you knew. I'm sorry.
My reaction is live and real. I am so excited because I think the book ends so like you get such great closure, and just the fact that, oh my gosh, there's going to be more. It's just such a special treat. So I am so excited.
Thank you. I like literally I'm over the moon about it because obviously, like you said, like there's a lot of closure. Like I don't really leave too many loose ends, like with my epilogue. And I had some people ask me, I was like on a Zoom call for a book club meeting, and they asked me like, how could there ever be a sequel? You know, like you've already, you know, with that epilogue, you tied everything up, and I don't see how you could ever write one. And at the time I was like, oh, I have some ideas, you know, but I didn't have a concrete idea. And now I'm like, I have one, and I just like wish I could just push publish and like have it out already because I'm so excited.
That's amazing. Well, if you need a beta reader or
I will hit you both up. Yes.
I cannot wait.
Thank you.
Well, speaking of publishing, what made you decide to publish Come Forth as Gold independently? And are you going to be going the same route with the sequel?
Yes. So I've written several other books, and I tried to get them traditionally published, you know, queried agents and that whole headache, and obviously never went anywhere, which thankfully it never went anywhere, because now I look at those manuscripts and just kind of cringe, and you know, I'm glad that they didn't get published. But when I started researching self-publishing and like learning more about it and just realizing how much control that you had over your work, that was so appealing to me. And I didn't think that I could do it though, like with all the like upfront costs, and it just seemed like such a big learning curve, and I didn't think I could do it right. And so I decided, okay, well, I guess I should just keep querying and just traditionally publish, and just kind of resigned myself to that. And then I let a friend, Britt Howard, read my book, and just kind of like as a beta reader. And she had recently moved to my same kind of city area. And we decided to meet up for coffee after she read my book. And she was like gushing about it, and we're just chatting. And she's like, what's your plan? And I told her that I kind of wanted to self-publish, but didn't think I could. So I was going to start querying and all of that. And she's like, no, I can help you. Like, I know how to do this. Like, do you want to do this? I'll do it with you. I'll do it for you. And she had already designed me a cover, because when she was reading, she just kept seeing something in her head and she had to like get it out. And so she's showing me all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, let's do this. Like God just like totally opened up that door. And I love self-publishing. I love the control that it gives me. And knowing that obviously it's kind of putting out a lot of fires and it's a lot of work, but I like having that control over every aspect of my work, and definitely plan to continue doing that in the future.
That's amazing. Do you
Great.
have a dog? Sorry, this is totally.
I'm sorry. She was like,
I saw their little
around. Oh, I thought you could hear her like little nails on the floor because she's so loud when she walks.
It's so funny. No, I just saw her tail pop up. Like, oh, somebody's here. Somebody's
Yeah,
say hello.
Often all of the dog stuff.
So cute. Well, I love that Brittany came alongside you and kind of showed you the ropes. That's very similar to what Alyssa did for me when I was self-publishing my
that's awesome.
It's so great to have people who have gone before you who can kind of show you the ropes, and it's you don't know what you don't know is what I realized really quickly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's overwhelming. I feel like if you don't have someone walking beside you, like I feel like self-publishing I would have quit. Like there was no way that I could have done it on my own. It's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I feel that so much too. I relied on so many people. Like when I first started out, I was like, I have no idea how to navigate any of this. I don't even know what an ISBN is. Like, what is this foreign language? Like, it's so much stuff. So it's great though, now that you know, Britt helped you, or Brittany helped you, and then you've been now joining forces with her to help other people. So that's such a, you know, a great way to give back to the indie community too. So
yeah, it's so exciting.
We do have one final question for you. I know our time is coming to a close soon, but we did want to ask kind of what the process was like with getting a BIBA. Like how exciting that is. Like, what did it look like? Were you surprised? Like, I don't even know the steps of getting even like my book is gonna be recommended for this. Like, I don't know what that looks like. So explain whatever you can.
So I applied for the BIBA. You like I think someone else can nominate you, or you can like nominate your own book. And obviously I nominated my own book, and you have to fill out a form and send a book in. And, you know, there's like this whole criteria, this whole judging process. And then I just kind of like forgot about it, honestly, because when I sent it in, it was like May or June or something, and judging, the whole process wasn't going to be completed until December. And so I didn't really think about it. And oh, my dog is here now visiting. And then one day in December, I was having literally one of the hardest days. We were going through so much, like we had some issues going on in our house, and we couldn't stay in our house for like a whole month. And we were just kind of trying to figure things out with insurance, and everything was just such a headache. I just felt overwhelmed and broken and all this stuff. And I was sitting in the car waiting to pick my kids up from this like church event they were at. And I'm scrolling through social media, and I see someone else post about the BIBA, like someone won a BIBA. And I'm like, oh, the results are out. Like, obviously, you know, I didn't win, but cool. Like, I want to go and, you know, look at the winners list. So I go to the website, and I'm starting to scroll through, you know, all the different categories. And all of a sudden I see my book and my name. And I'm like, wait a second, I won. And apparently they had sent out emails to all the winners like days beforehand, but it went to my spam folder, so I never saw it. And so I had no idea. And I just like started bawling. And it was one of those things where it was like, I felt God was like really speaking to me, like, okay, Erica, you just won this award for this book about, you know, a character learning to trust me, and you haven't been trusting me. Like, I'm here for you. I'm going to carry you through this. I'm going to work this out. And so it was just like a really overwhelming and emotional moment for me, just because of everything that I was going through, but super exciting. I'm so honored to have won it. And yeah, it's just kind of a fun thing.
So amazing and so inspiring, and just the little and big ways that God answers prayer, and knowing, you know, our needs and the things that, you know, when we're struggling, he cares. And so, you know, he didn't have to do that, but he did. And like, what amazing, you know, what a gift. And it's so rightly earned too. I mean, this book is literal gold, like in the title. So we are just so thrilled to have read your words and gotten to know your heart and your story. And we're so excited for future publications and your sequel, and just the fact that we've gotten to talk to you and just, you know, hear the backstory and meet you kind of in person-ish. This it's been such a gift. And so thank you for taking the time to answer questions and just share your heart with us.
Well, thank you guys for having me. I'm so grateful to be here, and I love you both so much.
It's been such a pleasure. Thank you so much, Erica.
Thank you.
Love you too. You know, I'm really bad at this. So okay, so we're gonna sign off, and yeah, but everyone who's watching, make sure, you know, there's no time like the present to grab yourself a copy and put her sequel on your wish list. So all right, and with that, we'll bid you all adieu.
Bye.
Bye.